On top of that, they also fast often. So I discovered how incredible my mind feels when fasted. People call it intermittent fasting, but
Well, that's an optimization of death, because when you fast, your body logically and obviously, if you think about it biologically, is, well, what does your body scavenge first? Well, damaged tissue. So I know the literature on fasting to some degree, and it's very compelling literature. If you starve dogs down, I think it's 20% below, rats too, below their optimal body weight, they live 30% longer.
Yeah.
That's a lot, 30%. Like, it's like 30%. Yeah, 30%.
You were asking me earlier about how to eat to live. I had a conversation with a person today, and I was saying, well, we're taught to eat minimum 1 meal a day. And I can remember when I first came in the Nation of Islam, some 40 years ago, I started out eating 1 meal a day. I went to 1 meal every 3 days. I went to 1 meal every 7 days. And I stretched out at times 1 meal every 21 days. That is a huge discipline. That is something pretty much inconceivable for most of our people today. Oh, you're going to die. But because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that His Majesty in the person of Master Farad Muhammad left those instructions in order to get to our higher self, I had a desire to want to experience that. And what I experienced was way above what is being offered today in this world. The mind goes somewhere else. I think you told me earlier you did a little fasting and it just readjusted your mind. That's what it's meant to do, because the God is in us. We've been taught to find it somewhere else, but it's in us, and if you want to connect with it, that's why God has prescribed fasting, because that is how you get to the heart.
Can you elaborate on your experience of eating 1 meal in 3 weeks and what effects it had on you mentally and physically?
Eating 1 meal, I did 1 meal. When I did 1 meal in 21 days, it was a struggle. It took strict discipline, but I didn't realize the benefits of eating once every 21 days or once in 21 days until I had eaten. Once I began to intake food, it was like jumping out of a plane in a parachute. You can feel yourself coming back down from a very lofty place. So that's when I began to understand somewhat of what was going on there. I was young. I didn't really know what was going on. I just believed in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I wanted to experience what he experienced. I wanted to experience what the Honorable Silas Muhammad experienced, because I can remember several times he would eat once in 40 days. And when he would come and speak to us after that experience, this was a human being that you could feel his mind was somewhere that society just wasn't experiencing. So I wanted some of that, so I attempted to do it as best I could, and I enjoyed the experience. But years later, I saw the benefit of it. As of today, once you open those doors, they don't close. So my mind still today, not to say that I'm better than anyone else or what have you, my mind has its own personal experiences, and it's able to communicate with things in a different way. And I'm not talking about I can talk to chairs or dogs or anything like that. I'm just saying, when I'm dealing with written material, I can see it in a different way, because my mind has been exposed in a different way. When I read something, as I asked you, look at that picture behind me, you don't see anything. That wasn't an insult. It's just that my mind has been trained to see different things. And fasting had a lot to do with it. Knowledge had something to do with it too. But to be able to fast allows you to be able to see things in a sharper way, and the tones in life communicate differently. That's all. I don't want to get into a situation to where I'm, seem like I'm tripping or half tripped or what have you. My reality is very good. My feet are flat on the ground. I'm dealing with our reality. But those are my personal experiences. And that is the reason why His Majesty in the person of Master Farad Muhammad brought that to us in order to raise us up out of our lower selves. Because it is food that takes you into your lower self. It begins to kill, or not kill, you can't kill, but it begins to distract you from your higher self, your spirit. Therefore, you become more physical, and you begin to do more physical things. When you eat, it cuts the oxygen from your brain, which causes you to be sleepy. It raises up your sexual desires. If you're eating once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you subdue your sexual desires. So eating 3 meals a day, it can cause you to be sexually conscious 24 hours a day. I mean, it's just that simple. And unless you have experienced some of what I'm talking about, or all of it, or more of it, you may not understand what I'm saying. But I'm just here telling you my experience. I'm not trying to persuade anyone to do as I have done or believe what I'm saying. That's not my case. What I have is mine. And if you want it, you have your own journey. But I'm just saying that is the power in the teachings of Don Elijah Muhammad.
Well, there is aspect to a lot of these things that make me nervous, because I always feel like there's no free lunch, that I'm going to pay for it somehow. But there is a focus that I am able to attain when I fast, especially when I eat once a day. Mm-hmm. My mind is almost like nervously focused. It's almost like an anxiety, but a positive one, or one that I can channel into just like an excitement.
I wonder how much of that's associated with, well, imagine that signifies lack of food, which is not that hard to imagine. Well, maybe you should be a lot more alert in that situation, right? Yeah. Biologically speaking, because you're in hunting mode, let's say, not desperate, but in hunting mode. And God only knows, maybe human beings should be in hunting mode all the time.
Often, but we don't know that. So I wonder if it has a stress on the system that long-term causes the system to
It doesn't look like it.
It seems, in case of fasting, not. And then on top of that, I discovered that the thing I enjoy, I just don't enjoy eating fat as much. Mm-hmm. So I love eating meat. And mm-hmm. when you talk about low carb diet, so I just discovered through that process, if somewhat fatty meat, but just meat, I just feel a lot of the things that make me feel weird about food, like a little groggy mm-hmm. or like full or just whatever, the aspects of food that I don't enjoy, they're not there with meat. And I'm still able to enjoy company. And when I eat once a day and eat meat, at least in Texas, you could still have all the merriment of you have dinner with friends. Now I don't do the you have a very serious thing that there's health benefits that you are very serious about. For me, I can still drink whiskey. Mm-hmm. I'll still do the things that add a little bit of spice into the thing.
Yeah.
Now, when you completely remove the spice, it does become more difficult.
Yeah, it's more difficult socially. And Tammy seems to only be able to eat lamb, although she might be able to eat non-aged beef. And that makes traveling complicated too, right? Because Well, for obvious reasons. It's like, really, that's all you can eat? Yeah, well, c'est la vie. And maybe that's a form of craziness.
So I don't eat more to get bigger. One meal a day is good. I like being hungry most of the day. It keeps my brain firing. When you're hungry, you're on. When you're full, you're not. I feel better when I'm hungry.
So
I think you and I eat similar diets, and at least I was.
The first time I've heard this.
Yeah, so I was doing it.
First time anyone has said that to me. In this case, anyway.
Yeah, but it's becoming more and more cool. But I was doing it before it was cool. So the intermittent fasting and fasting in general, I really enjoy. I love food, but I enjoy I also love suffering because I'm Russian. So fasting kind of makes you appreciate makes you appreciate what it is to be human somehow. So, but I have outside the philosophical stuff, I have a more specific question. It also helps me as a programmer and a deep thinker, like from the scientific perspective, to sit there for many hours and focus deeply. Maybe you were a hacker before you were CEO. What have you learned about diet, lifestyle, mindset that helps you maximize mental performance, to be able to focus, to think deeply in this world of distractions?
I think I just took it for granted for too long.
Which aspect?
Just the social structure of we eat 3 meals a day and there's snacks in between, and I just never really asked the question why.
Oh, by the way, in case people don't know, I think a lot of people know, but you famously eat once a day.
Yeah.
You still eat once a day?
Yep. I eat dinner.
By the way, what made you decide to eat once a day? Like, because to me, that was a huge revolution, that you don't have to eat breakfast. That was like, I felt like I was a rebel. Like like abandoned my parents or something and became an anarchist.
When you first, like the first week you start doing it, it feels you kind of like have a superpower.
Yeah.
And you realize it's not really a superpower. But I think you realize, at least I realized, like it just how much our mind dictates what we're possible of. And sometimes we have structures around us that incentivize, like, this 3 meal a day thing, which was purely social structure versus necessity for our health and for our bodies. And I did it I started doing it because I played a lot with my diet when I was a kid, and I was vegan for 2 years and just went all over the place. Just because health is the most precious thing we have, and none of us really understand it. So being able to ask the question through experiments that I can perform on myself and learn about, is compelling to me. And I heard this one guy on a podcast, Wim Hof, who's famous for doing ice baths and holding his breath and all these things. He said he only eats 1 meal a day. I'm like, wow, that sounds super challenging and uncomfortable. I'm gonna do it. So I learn the most when I make myself, I wouldn't say suffer, but when I make myself feel uncomfortable, because everything comes to bear in those moments, and you really learn what you're about or what you're not. So I've been doing that my whole life. Like when I was a kid, I could not speak. Like I had to go to a speech therapist, and it made me extremely shy. And then one day I realized I can't keep doing this, and I signed up for the speech club, and it was the most uncomfortable thing I could imagine doing. Getting a topic on a note card, having 5 minutes to write a speech about whatever that topic is, not being able to use the note card when I was speaking, and speaking for 5 minutes about that topic. So, but it gave me so much perspective around the power of communication, around my own deficiencies, and around, if I set my mind to do something, I'll do it. So, it gave me a lot more confidence. So I see fasting in the same light. This is something that was interesting, challenging, uncomfortable, and has given me so much learning and benefit as a result. And it will lead to other things that I'll experiment with and play with. But yeah, it does feel a little bit like a superpower sometimes. the most boring superpower one can imagine.
No, it's quite incredible. The clarity of mind is pretty interesting.
Elijah Muhammad's book, How to Eat to Live, emphasizes the importance of diet in achieving physical and spiritual well-being. He advocates for a vegetarian diet, underscoring the benefits of consuming natural, whole foods while avoiding processed items and unhealthy fats. Muhammad highlights the connection between diet and health, arguing that proper nutrition can lead to a longer, healthier life. He promotes the idea that food is not just sustenance, but also a means to elevate one's mind and spirit. Throughout the book, he integrates his teachings on self-discipline and the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle as part of a broader philosophy of empowerment and self-reliance within the African American community. The text serves as both a nutritional guide and a spiritual manifesto, reflecting Muhammad's belief that dietary practices are integral to personal and communal development.